Hello, this is Eun Joo Kim from Ulchi University. My presentation topic is effect of negative emotion on social disability. The sequence of progress is as follows. 1. Introduction to theoretical background research. 3. Method. 4. Result. 5. Conclusion and implication. Human are social beings. Humans are recognized as beings with the ability and virtue required by society, and have a desire to appear as such to others. Therefore, there can be difference between the real self and the seen self. The positive degrees of perceived or reported self compared to the actual self is called social disability bias. Social disability bias refer to an individual's desire or inclination to perceive themselves as socially positive or to be perceived by others. A person with a high social disability bias refers to a person who has the characteristic of a behavior that is highly desirable but unlikely to actually occur and responds extremely positively. Alternatively, a person with a high social disability bias refers to a person who responds extremely negatively to undesirable behavior or trait that are common to virtually anyone. In previous study, people with high social disability bias are more likely to have a different response from the reality in self-report measure of individual ability and personality. Social desirability is relative to emotional characteristics. It was found that there was an effect on self-reported response regarding behavior such as internet game time, experience of involvement in school violence, and eating habits. With the development of behavior science in psychology, self-reported type tests are being widely used as a means of understanding and analyzing human behavior. The self-reported type test is the most convenient method among various methods to understand human behavior and has been used in many studies. However, it is difficult to completely exclude the subjectivity of the respondent in the self-reported type test. There has been discussion that the self-reported that will be influenced by socially desirable response. This response distortion is explained as social desirability. In other words, a test tool that does not show high social desirability is highly reliable too. Therefore, it is necessary to control the factor affecting the social desirability of the self-report test tool to derive the reliable and varied test results. Among the various factors that affect social desirability, this study intended to investigate which negative emotion among college students negative emotion affect social desirability. As such, by using a test tool, they consider social desirability in conducting a self-report test with what the researcher wants to measure can be reasonably measured. The problem of this study, according to the purpose of this study, are as follows. First, what is the relationship between negative emotion and social desirability? Second, which sub-factor of negative emotion affect social desirability? People go through various emotional experiences in their daily life. Sometimes we experience positive emotion such as joy and happiness, and sometimes we experience negative emotion such as sadness, anger, and despair. Although the emotional experience itself is natural, negative emotion and their reactions sometimes cause daily psychological discomfort. Although the specific emotion experienced by an individual do not necessarily result in direct action, emotional experience do have a variety of influence on our behavior. In general, positive emotions trigger creativity and help achieve current and future goals. But negative emotions such as depression and anxiety sometimes hide the task performance or make it difficult to achieve goals. Therefore, proper regulation of emotion is essential for more adaptive and healthy life. Humans reach emotions through various pathways such as psychological states, behavior, and cognition, and they control emotion by intentionally manipulating this pathway to maintain positive emotion or to change negative emotion into positive one. Emotions have long been considered one of the most confusing and difficult topics in psychology, and although the concept of emotion is commonly used in everyday life, there is no consensus among scholars on it. In response to a fundamental question, William James viewed adaptive behavior and psychological response technique caused by evaluationally important situation. And Lazarus described emotion as a response to change induced physical or psychological. It was viewed as a result of an individual interpretation, and Davidson said that It is accompanied by a change in facial expression and direct on organism behavior. Compers and Barrett define emotion as a simple emotion. Rather, it is the process of establishing, maintaining, or terminating the relationship between an individual's internal and external environment. Negative affect refer to general dimension of subjective pain and unpleasantness that include various aversive emotional states, including anger, contempt, nancy, guilt, fear, and neurosis. Negative emotions were mainly found to have a negative effect on personal life safety, satisfaction, and behavior control. Negative emotions do not simply have a negative effect on the process of pursuing a goal, but become a signal that help to avoid obstacles in pursuing a goal and to find something new. It has been found through various studies that negative emotions have an impact on task persistence. Negative emotions are actively generated in response and reflection in the self-regulated learning stage, which consists of planning, monitoring, control, and response and reflection. These negative emotions can impact the social desirability that can appear in the self-reported test. Social desirability refers to personal desire and dispositions to perceive oneself as a positive image that meet the standard of current society or to be recognized by others. In particular, in social science research, it was said that it meant distortion that occurred in the process of respondents hiding their identity and trying to show a positive image. Looking at the social desirability item constructed through this later research among the personality test item, the item with the extreme response or positive. The self-report test results were evaluated by comparing and analyzing the external evaluation results. In other words, it can be seen that social desirability affects the measurement of individual attitude and self-reported behavior. There has been much debate about whether social desirability is adaptive or maladaptive. Social desirability as uncritical obedience to social pressure and argue that it inhabits subjective well-being. Social desirability as an immature depends. That is, the maladaptive depends and type of depends mechanism dealing with social demand or anxiety. In the study of Choi and BIDR7 was used, there was a significantly high positive correlation between social disability and adaptive defense type, humor, denial, sublimation, omnipotence. It reported the highest positive correlation and the highest negative correlation between impression management and image defense style, activation, separation, projection. Social desirability was largely studied according to a single dimension and two-dimension approach. According to a study by Crom and Marlowe, who define unidimensional construct, social disability refers to the desire to act and be recognized in a culturally appropriate and acceptable way. The Marlowe-Cron Social Disability Scale (MCSD) consists of 80 positive and 80 negative items, a total of 33 items, and it is a general measure of motivation. This supplements the limitation that Edwards' social disability scale, which consists of 79 items selected from 150 of the MMPI, contained pathological meaning, and thus the meaning of the score is unclear and is socially desirable but commonly seen. It is possible to measure behavior that attempt to positively represent both behavior and non-behavior behaviors. First presented the three definitions for each level of theoretical elaboration for the construct of social disability. First is this study measured negative emotion and social desirability of all second-year students enrolled in 4-year E-University in SCT, Gyeonggi-do. The valid sample used in this study was 995 students. The general characteristics of the study subject are presented in Table 1. A total of 995 people responded to the questionnaire for measuring. Looking at the gender composition of the respondents among the general characteristics of the study subject, there were 299 male students and 696 female students, which was more than 3 times higher among female students, and a total of 19 majors participated in this study. To measure the negative emotion and social desirability of college students, the MRST2 Learning Strategy Test tool for college students was used. This test tool consists of reliability indicator, additional information, personality characteristic, and emotional characteristic, motivation characteristic, behavior characteristic, learning. It is composed of time. In the MRST2 item composition, social desirability among reliability indicator was used as a dependent variable, and emotional characteristics and motivation characteristics were used as independent variables. The social desirability index, which is the dependent variable in this study, is a reliability index and refers to the degree to which people intentionally try to be seen well by others. Among negative emotions, which are independent variables, the indicator of depression, anxiety, and irritability mean the degree of emotional difficulty or pain for the corresponding emotion. Competitive motivation also refers to the desire to show off one's ability or achievement to others, the competitive spirit to be ahead of others, and the desire to be recognized. Avoidance motivation refers to a demand not to show one's inferiority or deficiency and to avoid performing tasks. PASW Statistic 80.0 program was used to analyze the data collected to test this research question. Frequency and percentage were calculated to understand the general characteristic of the study subject, and Cronbach alpha coefficient was calculated to determine the degree of internal fit of the survey tool. The mean and the standard deviation were calculated as a descriptive statistic of negative emotion and social desirability. In addition, multiple regression analysis was performed to confirm which negative emotion among college students. Negative emotions are the variables that have the greatest influence on social desirability, and to find out what is the most appropriate model to explain social desirability. To examine the relationship between college students' social desirability and negative emotion, descriptive statistical value and correlation analysis of each variable were performed. The analysis results are presented in Table 3 and 4. In Table 3, the average value of social desirability of college students was 52.77. As a result of explaining the correlation between the social disability of college students and the subfactor of negative emotion in Table 4. This suggests that the negative emotion that most negatively affect the social disability of college students is irritability factor. Table 5 and Table 5 is the result of testing the statistical significance of the model for measuring the effect of negative emotional factor on college students' social disability. In Table 5, since the significance probability for the regression model was 0.000, which is lower than 0.05, it was confirmed that the hypothesis that negative emotional factor affect the social disability of college students was established. The R-square value is the explanatory power of the dependent variable explained by the independent variables. As a result of multiple regression analysis on social disability, it was confirmed that there was no cardinally rich tolerance and VIF of 0.1 or more and less than 10 respectively. Next, as a result of checking the significance of each pathway, it was confirmed that the effect of irritation and competition on social desirability, excluding avoidance, depression, and anxiety factor among the subfactor of negative emotion, was confirmed. The regression equation showing the relationship with the negative emotion explains social disability is as follows. In this equation, minus 0.336 and minus 0.127 are the standardized regression coefficients when each variable is standardized. According to the derived regression equation, when irritability and competition are 0, the average of social desirability is 5.741, and when irritability increases by 1 point, when other independent variables are the same, social disability decreases by minus 0.336 point on average. and competition is one. As a point increase, it can be predicted that the social disability will decrease by minus 0.127.2 on average. Therefore, it can be seen that social disability is negatively affected by irritation and competition. In other words, to promote social disability, it is necessary to keep irritability and competition at the low level. According to previous study that people with high social disability are more likely to have different response from actual self-report measure on individual ability and personality. Social disability bias is related to emotional characteristics, internet game time, and school violence. It broadly affects self-reported response to behavior such as implicated experience and eating habit. Therefore, in order to improve the validity of self-report measurement results commonly used in the social science field, it is necessary to search for independent variables that affect social disability. According to the necessary of this study, in this study, negative emotion and social disability were measured for 1,000 college students, and what kind of negative emotion had an effect on the social desirability of college students was analyzed. For this purpose, the study was conducted on all 2-year students enrolled in E University in the course of SCT Gyeonggi-do. As a result of the study, it was found that among the sub-factors of negative emotion, competition, avoidance, depression, anxiety, and irritability and competition factor affect social disability. In order to secure the validity of the self-report measurement, the result of this study needed to prevent irritability and competition factors from appearing or exerting influence among the negative emotion of respondents. In particular, the 20s are the time to prepare for economic, mental, and physical independence, and there is a risk of difficulty due to emotional instability of a problem of adaptation. In addition, they are vulnerable to various psychological problems by experience various stress such as academic and employment, economic problem, relationship with the opposite sex and friends, and established way of value. Therefore, it is necessary to reduce irritability and competition factor in college life and to maintain a stable emotional state. And in the case of adults, as the age increases, the social desirability bias trend in increase. Although the specific emotion experienced by although the emotional experience itself is natural, negative emotion and their reactions sometimes cause daily psychological discomfort. Although the specific emotion experienced by an individual do not necessarily result in direct behavior, emotional experience do have a variety of influence on our behavior. In general, positive emotion trigger creativity and help achieve current and future goals, but negative emotions such as depression and anxiety sometimes interfere with the task performance or make it difficult to achieve goal. Therefore, it can be seen that proper emotional regulation is essential for more adaptive and healthy life. Despite the positive implication of the research of this study has the following limitation. First, there is a limit to generalizing the result of this study to all college students because the survey subjects were collected from some college students. Second, there is a limit in the scope of the study to control the influence of the other independent variables in terms of social disability bias other than negative emotion. Third, in this study, the size of negative emotion was indicated and used as data, but the work of clarifying or classifying which emotions were not dealt with. In addition to the limitation of this study, another implication of this study will be found if a follow-up study of this study is conducted on the difference between college students who experience negative emotion and those who do not. Thank you for your attention to the end.